Doing
Hey, Miss Karen, this is Christina. I think we will, if we
today.
couldn't, we're doing great, Miss Karen. If you could catch us back up, it seems like we have some connectivity lag.
Okay. Well, good morning. I'm Karen Vargas, part of many communities. I work with many different organizations within our county as well as our state. I think it's important that we unify in a way that brings community together by breaking down some of the barriers and really building community. I think that when we unify our communities, our family, and strengthen those components, I think that is foundational. A community is just made up of families, of children and adults, and we go into different organizations and we go to different environments, schools, but where we go, we go. So I think when we work on the foundational pieces of who we are as human beings, I think that we do our community and our families a service, and we help strengthen and bring our communities to a place of health and well-being. I have the privilege of working with the professional leaders of color. I have the privilege of working with Kitsap Strong and with New Life Community Development Agency and with our Bainbridge Island school districts and with our city governments, and the list goes on and on. But wherever we go, and we should make an impact for change. And so we try to work with our Living Life Leadership students to give them those principles that would help them throughout life wherever they go. And so um, one of the things I always say, I look at the faces of our community, and many of them are diverse, but we are all human and we have a common thread, and that common thread is humanity. And so how we treat one another and how we interact with one another is what is vital. And so I just wanted to just jump off in there like that, and thank everybody for coming.
Thank you, Miss Karen. How about Brenda? Can I have you introduce yourself?
Hi, everybody. My name is Brenda Fantroy-Johnson, and my pronouns are she and her. I want to congratulate all of the winners today. I think it's phenomenal that, we just keep showing up, and people have a lifetime of showing up, and it's good to see that there's recognition for that. I really didn't do anything special to prepare for this. It's kind of like it's been a week-long Zoom meeting for me as far as social justice. I took off one hat and put on another. I am the tech expert for my home. So I had to set up my husband's email and Outlook and trying to get done with that so that I could come join this meeting. Some of the affiliations that I belong to, I am the co-chair of the Race Equity Task Force here on Bainbridge Island, soon to be a standing advisory committee. I'm also in the running for city council member for Bainbridge Island. Yep, everybody can write in and support me. That'd be great. I also have my toes dipped into Erase and into Surge and to a lot of other organizations on the island that have asked me my opinion on racial equity. I've talked with, I believe, the Blodell Institute, the Wing Point Golf Club. It seems to me that this time is ripe for equity. Everybody is trying to get involved with it, and they're trying to make room for us at the table, and that's important. when they open the door, we have to step through and we have to be available for that. So thank you guys. And girls, people.
Thank you, Brenda. And if I could, we'll go into introductions, and Annie, as you said, we'll get into the vibe after the introduction, but Robin, if you wouldn't mind leading us off, that would be good, those introductions.
Good morning, everybody. Robin Littlewing, Sigo, Tisda. My pronouns are she, her, and T, which is Lashutsi for female. And I think I'm going to do my introduction based on people I see in here that I'm so excited to see. So I've been taking Lashutsi's language class, and both of the people from my class are here. So hi to Promise and to Marcia. And I see my friend Erin Lanham, who I've known since she was like 5 on here. I'm definitely an older sister, and I am the oldest of 6 kids. And you know, I love this work I'm doing. I work at the Suquamish tribe. I do a lot of work around child welfare and health. And I see Teresa Swope is on here, and I've done and I see Harriet there, and I've missed you and all my Kitsap Strong friends. And I'm so excited to see everybody. This is a great way to end the week. Oh, right, I'm with the Suquamish. I'm Suquamish, and I live on our reservation. You all here in Kitsap County are all, actually everybody, you're all on Indigenous land. So I just want to take a moment to acknowledge that. And I don't know, preparing for this is fed all my foster kittens. I gave all my kids a kiss goodbye and ran down to the office to make sure that I had consistent internet. So here I am. And, put on big earrings, which is, what I do. And so I see all the people out there who have those, and the person whose name is Jewel, I don't know you, but I'm totally drawn to your picture when you were up there. You just look beautiful, and I love your whole style. So that's my introduction.
Thank you. And if I could, Janelle, would you give introduction?
Sure. Can you guys hear me okay? So I just want to say I'm so genuinely honored to be here today, and just a quick shout out to my friend and boss, if you will, Chris Brown, for our collaborative work with reentry, and just everyone here today in putting on such a big event. So today, my name is Janelle McFeet, but I'm hoping to have that change to Broderson and going back to my maiden name. And so, I'm a little bit different. I'd like to say that, I'm a social worker and an activist, but also an idealist. I actually am the project manager and the strategic planner as well for the Welcome Home Project, which is a human dignity reentry model that maybe we'll talk about a little bit later. I am not a linear thinker. I'm usually all over the place, but I believe in the power of connection, and I believe in the power of universal love. And I think that sometimes, and again, and I will model this vulnerability throughout, but I think that if we really understand the importance of connection and relationships and universal love, as Pollyannish as that sounds, that actually really creates change. And in my work for the last 20 years, with massive critics saying that and dismissing that idea, saying, Janelle, you're too much of an idealist, this will never work. Well, it's working. And that's because of relationship building. I also am the co-leader at our reentry task force meetings that take place around this reentry movement, and then also work with our law enforcement agents, officers as well, working on relationship building and with listening circles that hopefully I can touch on a little bit later. But I'm I'm so blessed to be here today, and what I bring to today's kitchen table discussion is not just lavender, which is a calming scent, but vulnerability. And I hope I can show that throughout today. So thank you.
Thanks, Janelle. Derick?
First, I want to thank the council for inviting me to participate on this panel discussion. My name is Derick Polk, and I'm involved with Kitsap Surge and Kitsap Erase. And one of the reasons I got involved is because as I got older, I said, you know, I need to start giving back to the community. And I feel that one of the main issues that has been especially on display this year, besides the pandemic, is the issue of racism and white supremacy. And I think that one of the things that we need to do in America is solve these issues, and America will not become the country or the leader of the world or live up to its full potential and destiny until that issue is solved.
Thank you, Derick. Appreciate that. Angela?
Magandang umaga, kumusta po? Hello and good morning. Hello everyone, my name is Angela Fleming. I'm the daughter of Rosenda Fleming, who hails from Malungapole, immigrated over 40 plus years ago. My father was Arnold Fleming, he came from Philadelphia. I'm the mother of Camina Fleming and Joel Trousdale. I work with the Suquamish Tribes Research and Strategic Development Department, as well as our Suquamish Foundation for over 16 plus years. And I'm proud to say I'm part of the Kitsap Racial Equity Empowerment Group and the Professional Leaders of Color. I come here today prepared for y'all. I acted like I was going out in public and showered and brushed my teeth. You're welcome. And to help me prepare, my family brought me some coffee. I put the dogs away and showed whatever support they can so that I could be present here in the room today with you all. And I just wanted to acknowledge everyone. You know, I grew up in this community. I've been here for 40 plus years and grew up with a lot of people that are in this room. And I'm not someone that's usually happy to be speaking in public, but since I see so many familiar and friendly faces, it does feel like it's a room full of friends. So thank you all for being here, and that's what I have to introduce.
Thank you, Angela. And my name is Cristina Roark. I identify as she, her, sia, and happy to represent Kitsap Strong, but actually just I'm in love with the community. So think of Kitsap and I hold it in my heart. I grew up in San Diego, California, but have been living as a resident here on ancestral land since 1998. So I appreciate you guys humoring me. I just did some noticing, like we did the introductions. We went on and off of mute, and that made it kind of fixed. And I don't know, Annie, how we achieved the vibe of feeding off of each other, but I'll start here. I'm reflecting on words that Leonard Forsman brought to us today about healing in the community. And I heard connection, relationship, love, and giving back. And I guess I just wanted to ask the group, you know, in this work of collectivism and collaboration, what brings you into this? Why is this so important, and how do we sustain in 2020 and moving forward for healing and love? And if we want to try the kitchen table and everybody go off mute until someone speaks, let's go.
I think that there's just no other way, and I would be interested to hear what other people think. That it never felt like there was a choice to do this work. Like we got led here, and whether you're an introvert or an extrovert or however you identify, there's a calling to do it. There's something else. There's that ancestral piece of you that keeps going, because we're going to make sure that we paved the way for people before us, and that we're following the trail of other people who came before us. Like, it never felt like an option to me to not do this. I mean, one of the things that I almost said for my introduction was, I'm an auntie. I'm an auntie to every kid I meet. Everybody who's younger than me, guess what? I'm your Auntie Robin, and that's just how it is. And everybody who's older than me, I'm like, you're my auntie, my uncle, you're, you know, my grandparents, because I'm always looking for that. Like, when you're a part of a community and when you approach it like that, you just don't have a choice about keeping forward and moving and doing the work that's hard, exhausting work, but also so fulfilling.
It's true, we tend to be led into the direction we're supposed to. I grew up with Robin, you know, and worked with her, and a lot of the faces, as I was saying, are not someone that likes to be seen too often. I love the background work, but I have had a lot of you mentoring me and supporting me in coming up, and in turn we mentor the next person, and you know, support each other so that we can feel comfortable, because this work has been important. And, you know, this time of the year right now, racial equity is a focus, and it's something I feel very passionate about, as well as working with our youth and all the things. Everyone that I see has been very passionate about working towards equity, as well as working to bring up our youth in this world.
Robin, you hit something earlier. When you said something about we have no choice but to keep going. I think a lot of our communities, coming from different backgrounds, we don't have a choice. We could try to turn our backs away and be like, you know, I'm tired, right? 2020 is tiring. We are tired. Our spirit is tired. We're worn down. And I think it is our duty, especially people who are coming from oppressed and exploited backgrounds. It's our duty to realize that your struggle, our struggle, is their struggle. Their struggle is our struggle. So until all people are free and all oppressed people are no longer exploited in their countries or in this country, until Black lives really do matter, until immigrant lives really matter, there's no way we can turn our backs. Like, the moment we do, it's almost like putting down, like, the protective barrier is gone, right? So we're more susceptible to harm if we're not together as a collective. And I think that collectivism and collaboration is really key during this moment of renewal and reflection to gain that radical joy that I think many of our communities have been fighting for generations after generations, and it is our duty. Unity is what Miss Karen talks about a lot, and that I grew up in. I was raised in the Bay Area, so a lot of people from different liberation movements taught me for over 20 years is international solidarity, and it is it is to ensure our strength through solidarity efforts, and this roundtable being an example of how we can continue that.
This is Favio, and I would like to speak next. So for the longest time growing up, you know, having an immigrant father and simply coming from a lower income environment, so having to move house to house throughout Kitsap and all that stuff, and all the trauma I went through, I kind of ignored those traumas, you know, in order to fit in. And it was in middle school, high school, I wanted to be like my friends who were in the middle class and the higher class, you know, and I wish I haven't done that, but it took till 2020 with quarantine and just seeing the unrest that I had to almost go back to those trauma and not ignore them, and kind of just see, like, how can I move forward from that, and how I can make a change, and how I can use my testimony, the experience that I went through growing up with having an immigrant father and all those other things, and how my lifestyle was a little bit different, how I can make a change with that. So like in June, July, August, September, I really have to change my lifestyle, if that makes sense, with just how I can be the light in this world, especially because I'm identified as BIPOC, you know, like I'm Mexican, I'm Chamorro, and I just can't like ignore, what is it, like, I just can't forget who I actually am, you know, as Favio too. And, you know, just come, like, I just see, like, my parents and, like, and just going back to the root of where I belong and how, like, now, like, there's no time to wait, you know, we're not promised tomorrow. And there's people who are dying right now, you know, and there's so many issues right now that I could just be an example. And again, like, for the longest time, I just kind of ignored those, and it's just now I'm starting to see that there's hope for me mentally, emotionally, physically, and for my family and for those around me. So I'm just so excited that it took like COVID to just open and awake me, if that makes sense, you know. And now, like, I have hope for the future, you know, and it just brings me joy that I have a community. Like, I'm part of CARE, and I work with Miss Karen. She's one of my, oh, I love you, Miss Karen. She's such an amazing, I always tell her she's my spiritual mom, because she gives me hope. Annie gives me hope, and so many other people in here gives me hope. And I feel like now I just have, I feel free, if that makes sense. And I just feel like I have a community that loves me, and that I can just be myself, you know, because all fighting together. And again, like, this is the most love I've ever seen in my life is now, you know, just like meeting all, like, some of you guys and stuff like that. So yeah, I'm really excited.
Oh my God, see, if you're an auntie or uncle to everybody you meet, then you get to be like, oh, Favio, my nephew is so incredible. That just warms my heart.
Oh.
You know, I'm so glad that we're talking about, really what we are talking about is love and how we are treating one another. And, you know, Janelle was talking about how, oh, they say, oh, that's so cliche. No, at the root of everything is how compassionate, how kind, how we treat one another. What are we going to do? One of the things that really, you know, pricked my heart is that one of my mentors, Dr. Maxine Mims, said to me, she said, your ancestors have paid for you. Your family has paid for you. Their sacrifice, their blood sacrifice. You can not just sit there and do nothing. Your ancestors have shed their blood. They've gone through all of the oppression for you to be able to do what you can do now. You don't have all of what they went through, but they paid for you. And so you have to begin to pick it up. You have to Ubuntu. You have to begin to strengthen your community, strengthen your children, and you have to build them up, and you have to support them, and you have to know how to village. You have to know how to come in and connect and do all of these things. And when she began to pour into me and have me understand who I was, where I come from, my people, our traditions, we are a stolen people brought to a stolen land. And we have to understand from that standpoint, from those whose land we are, the indigenous tribes that were here. She said, you come from a tribe, you're tribal, you're indigenous, you just come from another tribe across the water, but you were part of the stolen one that was brought here. And so all of that history, all of that trauma, all of what happened here, you have to begin to tell the story. You have to begin to have your ancestors lifted up for all the things that they've gone through. And so as we move forward, how do you connect? How do you begin to build? How do you begin to strengthen? How do you begin to transform from what was to what is now to what can be? Because we are all on this journey, and this is a spiritual journey. We cannot separate the spirit from who you are. You have to begin to move in those environments and begin to bring healing, reconciliation. How are we talking about reconciliation? How are we talking about how we're going to move from all the atrocities that have been inflicted upon us as human beings, as a people? It doesn't matter what tribe you come from or what lands you come from. When you've been under all of these different oppressive systems, and how do you address it? How do you have the real talk about it and talk to it where you level the playing field, where all of humanity can easily jump in and entreat how to move equity forward, how to move reconciliation and healing forward, whether it's reentry from those that are coming out of those oppressive systems, or whether it's a culture or a people or a land. We've got to heal the land as well as heal the people. So we've got a lot of work to do as we move forward and we talk about how equity and how race equity shows up. We have to come from the lens of where we're from and where we're coming from, and how to begin to share that shared collective wisdom and knowledge as we move forward to do this work. This work isn't easy. And you're right, Robin. This is hard work. Annie, this is hard work. Janelle, Angela, all as we come together at this table, how can we do that collective thing? Because that's one of the colonizing ways, is to divide us and separate us and weaken us, and that we are not unified in villaging to move against these oppressive systems. And so I say that because we're here talking about how to do this collective thing, how to do this healing thing, how to be able to come together and unify and put aside every weight that divides us, so that we can do a work where there's unity, there's strength. And so we look at ways to unify us, and regardless of the diversity that we bring. What is our common thread? What is our common goal? What is our common lens that we need to stand on? This is important to put in the minds of those that are around us as we do this work. And so I just, I was just listening to everybody as they begin to speak and say, oh, as a collective, we bring the wisdom of our ancestors with us too. We're not alone. So
Ms. Karen, you bring up a lot of deep questions, and I think we all can attribute the spiritual mom characterization to your work and your presence in the community. I guess I'd like to ask the other members on the panel, what comes to your mind? Just let's speak a little bit more about wherever your energy is.
I think that Favio really brought up a good point for me, because what I had to do was the same thing. I had to deal with the trauma first before I could even get involved with this. I had so much trauma growing up. And it's great to come into this with that passion, but you can't come into this with that trauma, because then you're blaming everybody and everything. And there is no collectivism. I really love the idea of us all collectively getting together, having the same set of goals and trying to move it forward. But it's the trauma that we have in our past that can derail us, and we've seen that happen. So, I just would implore everybody to, do some of that inner work that needs to happen, so that we're not spreading trauma as we go. Yeah, that's what I had to say.
I was just gonna piggyback on what Karen was talking about. Karen, it's really sitting with me, and I don't know how many people that are listening in today know about the listening circles and the restorative circles that we've started here in Kitsap County, that talks about, or we have a different approach to healing and to listening. And we actually model it off of what's rooted in the Native American culture, which is talking circles. And so what we've done is we've brought law enforcement together, justice involved, people of color, community, elected officials, to have conversations in a circle setting, where we use the same rules that apply in a talking circle that you would see with, we have to do it virtually, right? Which is, I thought it would be a challenge, but we partnered with Dispute Resolution and Kitsap Strong, and it seems to be working really nicely. After this conference, I'd love to get more of you involved in this. We also have restorative circles that work with people coming out of incarceration, where we work with the victim of the crime, the family, our law enforcement, mental health professionals, and our success coaches, that each person that comes out of our Welcome Home program is assigned with a success coach. And the reason why I bring this up is because I feel like this is the new way of healing, where we're all listened to, because everybody has a story, and it's not a town hall style where people are yelling at each other and we have these really pointed questions. It's a really beautiful experience, and we've only had 2. The idea is that we do this for a year, and see where it goes, because in my book, relationships are the most important agent for change. And so I know this is a little off topic, this last thing I'm going to say, and I don't know if any of you have read Emergent Strategies, but our title, right, and what we're talking about today is collectivism and collaboration. And it says, in nature, everything works in collaboration. There are hummingbirds and flowers that are in such deep coordination, they need each other for survival. How vibrant and alive and successful could our movement be if we moved with such beautiful coordination and collaboration? And I just wanted to say that because, and sometimes it brings tears to my eyes, because I feel like the importance of working together and seeing all sides is the way to create change. Thank you.
I would like to piggyback on something Karen said about, I believe that a lot of the issues and problems that we have are spiritual. And I believe that we have to address them on a spiritual level, and until we are willing to acknowledge that they're spiritual and address them on a spiritual level, they're not going to be solved. And another thing is, and I'm going to, I guess, admit something. For a long time, I was the person who wanted to work behind the scenes, stay out of the spotlight. You know, I mean, I worked, but, you know, I didn't want to be in the limelight or the spotlight. And it all of a sudden, it took people like Karen and Aaron, and there's a few other people who I believe are on the call, Nick, Tammy, Stan, Promise, who made me realize that at some point you have to actually, you have to say, okay, I can't work behind the scenes anymore. I have to step into the spotlight. And again, this is why I'm actually honored that the council felt I was worthy enough to participate in this discussion.
You know, that's a good point, Mr. Polk. You know, a lot of it, like I said earlier, I usually like to be behind the scenes, but it is people like, you know, Karen and Harriet is the one person I use as an example, who's inspired me a lot. She, you know, as I had to show up at a lot of these events, whether, you know, for galas and whatnot, and being the one person of color in the room who, you know, growing up in a community that did not make me feel valued or that, like, they wanted to hear my voice. it was awesome to see another person of color in the room, and a few other people, of course, obviously, but no matter what, you kept seeing the 1 or 2 people in the same room. So that inspired us to start Professional Leaders of Color, because though there was only 1 or 2 or 3 of us, it made you feel supported, and it made you not feel quite like the outsider. And so with Professional Leaders of Color, it was our goal to have more leaders of color showing up in the room, and not just show up on like Black History Month or during Native History Heritage, month. We needed to be present and at the table more often, but it was always had to be a person like Harriet. And, quite honestly, I was glad Harriet was there, because I don't want to be that person, but but it's important. So I showed up, and I keep showing up, but I'd rather have more of, it's very inspiring to see Favio and all of our youth that are brave. I'm over 40 years old, and it's taken me this long to even want to be in the room and speak, because we spent a lot of our lives having to explain, every time someone was making a racial, ignorant comment, we always had to explain to them why that was wrong, and that's very tiring. But the youth have the energy, and they are standing up for us, and they're saying the words that we don't necessarily have the energy, and it's important we mentor them and support them, and hold you up, Auntie's here, but I gotta go to take a nap afterwards. So we appreciate you all.
Yeah, the word collaboration, it tugs at me, because within different circles that I've been part of, different movements in the US, collaboration, it's a pretty word. So is collectivism. But when it becomes put in action, it's really difficult, because we can have the same ideas, right, and values, and we're fighting for the same thing. But then when it comes to like, how are we going to go about it, that's when a little bit of conflict comes into play. And I've seen this so many times, and that's when the collaboration part and the collectivism starts to be, we kind of rock that boat a little bit. And as activists and as members of community that are fighting for justice constantly, it's super important and to remember who the enemy is. And it's not each other. It's not because one person is more oppressed than the other. We're not playing that game. It's not one ethnicity has it better than another. It's, we need to come together and remember that there is one enemy, and that enemy is a system that is exploitive, that undermines Indigenous people, undermines people of color, it undermines the LGBTQ community, it still undermines women, and we need to go past that and see that little disputes amongst our inner activist circles, it's an opportunity for us to really practice what collaboration and collectivism is, and remember that where those moments are not moments of creating new enemies amongst each other.
That resonates a lot with me, Annie. Thank you for saying that. I think that, and I'm really looking at the painting behind you that's also speaking to my heart here too, because I think it does fill with joy. And I think that piece of radical joy, and the part for me, I come from a mental health background, doing work specifically around trauma. The part that I've always been so amazed with in terms of resilience, part of the reason that I do the work on Kitsap Strong is because of this idea of radical joy, that I've seen people who've been through atrocious trauma. I've known people in my family. I've been through a lot of trauma, but we find these moments of joyfulness and humor, and we can laugh, and this laugh is a soulful laugh that helps make it through to that next moment. And I think that, moments like this where I get to see people, like those moments of joy and getting to spark those pieces, that's what makes it so that we can continue to do that. And those sparks are those places where, the soul can kind of get in there, and you can have soulful conversations. Like I want to hear, like, from Brenda, like, how did you deal with those traumas? How did you, have those pieces with them where, how do you talk about trauma in a way that makes it approachable for somebody who's younger or older who doesn't know how to get past that moment yet? And I always like to say it's those sparking joy moments, those radical joy moments that make it. And the more you have of those, the easier it is to work through some of that trauma. But I think that that's a really great place for us to work in the community, is to really spark joy and to remember that we can grow that as a community, that it really is a garden, that it really is this place where we grow closer and closer together with those moments, and it makes it so that we can work through the trauma piece that we're all doing.
That leads to a good question of what does healing look like for us in our communities? So I open that up to our group.
Yeah.
I think that, you know, for me, what does the healing look like? It looks like when we're able to talk about it. You know what I mean? It's been ingrained in us that we should just move past it. You know, we've been told all our lives that, you know, that was in the past, you should move past it. And I don't care what kind of trauma you've gone through, you don't just move past it. So the healing for me began when I was allowed to talk about it and somebody just listened. You know, I really am interested in those listening circles that Janelle was talking about, because that's how we do it. I mean, that is the collective right there, having, you know, not being the only one in the room that's talking about my garbage, you know, because I know everybody's got it. Everybody's got garbage. Somebody said it at the beginning of the meeting, that you really haven't lived if you haven't gone through something, you know. And so for me, it was just being able to express that, and the feeling that I got when other people, you know, was shaking their heads like, yeah, I've gone through that too. And let me tell you what I did with my garbage, you know. And so it's that the shared knowledge that we, you know, it doesn't make me any less of a person because I've had trauma, you know, and it doesn't make you any less if you haven't had any. It's all a part of growing, for me, growing into who I am, and everything that's ever happened to me has made me this person. And it has given me that radical joy where I can come out now and say, yeah, I've had that. So now how can I help the rest of the people that is going through this? How can I be of service and try to listen to someone else's trauma so that I can help them through it and tell them what I did to get through it. So
yeah, I think you're definitely creating that space of, like, when you opened up to talk about it, it really opened up this group to start talking about it too. And if I can share, Angela and I have been friends since like the 6th and 7th grade. And, you know, I think authentic relationships that you have really lead to that collectivism piece. Like, she and I work together, personal friends too. And we've certainly had issues that have come up for us that have caused discourse, but never once did I ever doubt that she loves me and cares about me and will take care of my kids and take care of anything that comes up. And I think that's what you're looking for in a collective society, in a collective group, is you're looking for somebody who you can lean on when you need to, and they can lean on you in that same way, and we can take some of that weight, and we don't have to fight every battle by ourselves, especially when there's another person of color in the room or an ally there who's going to pick that up, because you know that moment. I think we all feel it when somebody says something that sucks, that hurts really bad, and you're just like, I'm so tired, and you kind of sigh and you try to like bolster up to talk about it and to bring it up and be the one who brings up race in something, or the one who brings up gender issues. And, you know, and there's those moments where somebody else says it. You're about to say something and then somebody else picks it up, and there's this sense of, that's my person. That person is my person. We're in a collective society here I don't have to do it all by myself. And I think that's one of the most wonderful things.
For me, there's 3 things that help me a lot, which is just to listen, to learn, and to love. I love myself, love the community, and all of that I just learned from the community. And the more I listen and understand other stories, because I feel like that's like that relationship there, allows me to overcome the things I've went through, and it brings me hope to know that I'm not alone in this also, because trauma is real, and especially being a person of color and having an immigrant father, that there's a lot of trauma I've gone through with that, and knowing that care, having care as a community is just amazing. I love it. And just also for me being a youth, I always look up to older people as well, so like Miss Karen and other people on here, because I love learning from people who had lived on earth longer, because they probably learned from their elders, etc., and they're the ones who actually have real knowledge, if that makes sense, so definitely the older people I tend to learn from as well.
Might just go out on a limb here because of everyone's beautiful conversations that we're having. December 11th is when we're having the next listening circle, and I think Robin and Karen, you guys were invited to that through dispute resolution. But if any of the 8 that are on this call would like to join in, Brenda, we would love to have you. And this is a circle where we can really see each other. And when I mean that, I mean we're really seeing each other. So pre-COVID, when we had these type of meetings, you would have an officer sitting next to someone who was recently incarcerated, actually a Port Gamble-Slalom tribal member that was recently incarcerated, sitting next to a community member, and in these really beautiful circles, we're starting to see each other through the trauma, right? So we're able to, everyone is vulnerable in these circles, and it's about getting to know that individual, developing those genuine and deep connections, and trying to move this, right? And we have this here in Kitsap County, and I would love to have your guys' voices at the table, because I feel like this is the first step to stop dehumanizing and start humanizing and loving, and seeing that every single person has a story, every single person. And we're doing work with Kitsap Strong, with Cody and Cristina. And what we're doing right now is we're laying out law enforcement to get trained in trauma-informed care. And after, we're still in the middle of developing it with our tribes, with the Squamish and Port Gamble-Slalom tribe. And then after they had that experience of a deeper dive in trauma-informed care, they'd sign up for the circles. The officers would sign up for that circle to have that human connection and contact, and be able to hopefully be able to be vulnerable in the circles. I did want to share that because I think as we move forward, it's great to have conversations, but we have to strategically put something into place that can be successful and that can move forward. And so any of your support, Robin and Karen, I do believe you guys got an invitation to that, if you're able to, and then anyone else, I don't know how I could get emails, maybe I could work with Cristina on that, but I would love your voices. I would love it.
Janelle, I'm so happy that we're having the conversation about it, because so many times I think that things are what I call gate kept. There's a lot of gatekeeping that goes on to us being able to come alongside. I remember it's been a few years now when we came to the table to do reentry. We were coming from the Black Prisoners Caucus to be able to just say, what can we do about reentry? Because we had so many of our African American and Hispanic families that have been affected by being incarcerated, and wasn't able to lay a good foundation for those families, and those families begin to struggle and begin to have more trauma with those that were coming out of the system. So we were just trying to grab onto any kind of support or resources to be able to help all of our families. And so, we really got kind of discouraged, because at that time they were just doing it for the tribes. But how can we begin to reach our immigrant population, our Hispanic, our African American communities to step in? Because all of our communities are affected by this. how do we get those voices to the table so that we do this collective thing with bringing our communities to a place of health and well-being? We shouldn't, you know, when we see the barriers, how can we break down those barriers that we can begin to put those support nets and those supports in place so that all of our communities are moving simultaneously into a place of health and well-being?
Absolutely.
Yes.
We're tribal, non-tribal, so absolutely we're working on that.
Yes.
Beautiful. So Ms. Karen, you lead us into more good questions. And I think what's exciting about that is we have a breakout session that would love to invite others to think more deeply about this. I think I thank and share my gratitude to all the speakers and being able to share your stories and your passion. I feel like we've offered some thoughts about how to make healing accessible in a structured way, and then just simply being that person who has another person's back, as a friend, as an adult, as a mentor, as an auntie. We are a community. So we are at time, and I have no joy in closing this, but I am excited to see what else the day has to bring for us. Thank you, everyone. And I'm going to, I believe, hand it back to one of the organizers, and excited to carry this conversation forward for others who want to join us in the breakout session.
Thank you.
Thanks, Cristina, and thanks to all the roundtablers. It was great to just sit back and get to bear witness to your conversation. Really appreciate you all. Aaron, everybody, this is Aaron. I'm running tech, and just put in the chat that one of the midday sessions that'll be coming up at about 11:30 is debrief of this roundtable session and getting to have interactive conversation about what the roundtablers shared with us today. So stay tuned. There'll be more details about that soon. Thanks again to all of you in the roundtable. And a recording of this session will be put onto the Kitsap County Council for Human Rights website after the conference.